Hi, it's Mike Dreger. If you want to review your Voyant assignment and think about what you did not so well and what you could really improve for the final assignment, I recommend you go to the essay resources link. In the last few days, we've added a few resources. You've always had access to the primary sources. These have been available since week 16 or 17, the workshop weeks for Voyant. Be aware that the transcribed texts that we have all kinds of problems. They're handy for you, they're easy to use, they're easier to read, and we can machine read them using Voyant. But while some of you did a really good job transcribing, others of you added some errors, and there's a number of other, challenges in using the files with Voyant tools. You can pay attention to those. You should also look at reading the texts more closely as well. That's one of the really important parts of the final assignment. Take a look at all of the texts. You should have a really good idea of what is in all four of them before you work on your final assignment. We've included the primary sources in their original form here in the essay resources. Take a look at James Ramsay's objections to the abolition of the slave trade. When you look at a title and you start to make or draw inferences based on the title, don't just look at the short title. That's what a lot of you did, and you made a basic mistake. You assumed that Ramsay was an opponent of abolition. Take a look at the title, the full title page. You'll probably realize that that's a problematic assumption. One of the big mistakes that a lot of you made in your Voyant assignment is that you drew some inferences, but you didn't test them effectively. You didn't use the tools to the best of their advantage. Sometimes you only applied one tool to the analysis of a text and really didn't get beyond your initial hypothesis. For many of you, those hypotheses were just wrong from the beginning because you made assumptions about Ramsay's title, for example. And a lot of you also just focused on the most frequent terms without looking into what the author meant by them. For example, a lot of you thought that Ramsay considered that the slaves were objects of economic advantage, perhaps. Let's take a look at object. There's an interesting pattern here. We don't know what it means right away. We can throw the same text, Ramsay's considerations, into the collocate tools option. And this is one thing I really recommend for your final assignment. Use more than one tool on the same text or same combination of texts. See what you can find out. So here's the word object that a lot of you focused on. And it's connected with slaves and sugar, slave and trade. Okay, not a big surprise. The essay is about slavery and the slave trade. But here's a connection that seems odd to me. ANSW. I wonder what that's about. So I'm going to go back to the skin with the Cirrus, the corpus reader, which very few of you used effectively. But here's the word trends tool. And I'm going to add ANSW. Okay, it seems closely connected with object. I wonder what's going on. What I could do is actually, click on the green term answer, and here I've got all the uses of ANSW. I already gave away what it means. Answer. It's an abbreviation. And what I see is that from this point on in the text, because that's what that option is. When I click on it, the term shows up in the corpus reader, and these highlighted bars show portions of the text where the term is available. Okay, here we have objection number 1, and then answer number 1, and then object as an abbreviation number 2, and answer as an abbreviation number 2. Ramsay, we can tell from this view, is providing answers to objections to the abolition of the slave trade. A lot of you were interested in the visualization possibilities of the various tools because you say you're visual learners. Okay, fine, you might be a visual learner, but be more inquisitive as a visual learner. Take a look at this visualization here. It's the bubble lines of Ramsey's text on objections. When you just load up the text of Ramsey's book into the bubble lines tool and set the stop words for the text, these are the terms that you're going to get. They're the 5 most common, frequent terms in the text after we get rid of the stop words. A lot of you used this kind of a visualization to look at Ramsey's text or another text and then stopped there. I wonder what this might show us. Well, one thing that I think we can already see is that, or I suspect, slave, slaves, and trade are words that we can just get rid of. Let's do that. We can click on slave, remove the term. We can click on trade and remove the term. We can click on slaves and remove the term. We're left with these terms here. And notice I've separated the terms. It's actually easier to read them in the source. Now, what I see is that there's, in the second half of the text particularly, quite a parallel between object and ANSW, but not in the first half of the text. I'm going to type in object. One thing you'll notice is that when I do that, words that begin with those letters will also pop up, including objection and objections, and I'm going to add them to my visualization here in bubble lines. Okay, and I'm also going to do that with ANSW. ANSW. Wait a moment. Use the down arrow. Answer. And answers I'm going to add. Now what I notice is something is a little bit more helpful than the word trends tool. Word trends in its default divides a text into 10 equal parts. We can set the granularity at different levels here. In bubble lines, I'll set it to 100. And I can see that there's quite a parallel between answers, objections, and objection, and then answer, answer, answer. Okay? Something going on in this part of the text. And I'm going to, well, what I can start to conclude is that here we have the start of a series of discussions by Ramsey of objections to abolition, and then he also includes a series of answers to those objections, and this is probably an indication that there's a list of many more objections and many more answers in the second half of the text. And I suspect, therefore my hypothesis is that this first part of the text is an introduction to his long list of objections and answers. I can test this hypothesis by reading closely, or I could also test it by clicking on some of these terms here. Click on one of these options. We can also use keywords in context to read the text quite quickly and effectively, so we can find out how in fact Ramsey is using the terms. We can also see if object is used in any other way other than objection. Still, a horse is an object of property. Okay, that's not an abbreviation. So not all uses of the term object have the same meaning in this text, and it's something you also have to be very aware of.